Hello, everyone. Welcome to week two. So I do know last week I put out some lectures that were extremely long, so I'm going to try to condense that to multiple shorter videos instead of two really long videos. So this week we look at chapter three, and we're really getting into some of the supplier sides of supply chain. And chapter three starts out talking about supplier partnerships. Why are they important? And really, to give you guys an example from my career, early in my supply chain career, I had these two competing suppliers that made brass components for me when I worked at Delta Faucet Company. Um, One of them I had a absolutely fantastic relationship with. We were collaborative. We shared ideas. When they had a cost increase, we were able to negotiate it. They shared some of the increase. I shared some of the increase. And all in all, it was just a mutually beneficial relationship. Then we had this other supplier, and very adversarial. Anything that went wrong for them, they tried to blame on us, and it was just constantly an uphill battle with the supplier. So when they came and they wanted a price increase, I was less likely to even have the conversation. When I came and had a volume increase, they didn't want to help me. So really, when you think about supplier relationships, think about your friends. You know, Someone that you have a good relationship, that's who you're going to ask to come help you change a flat tire. That's who you're going to ask to help you move. Um, a friend or a family member that you have a strained relationship, that strained relationship, you really don't want to get into asking favors or giving favors. So how do we develop and nurture supplier relationships? And really, one of the biggest things is to build trust. You have to have trust that they're going to do what they say they're going to do, and they have to be able to trust that you're going to do what you say you do. So how do we do this? Well, you have a contract in place. That always helps. The negotiation of a contract can be tense. It can be tedious. Um, but make sure that as you're negotiating this contract with your supplier, you're staying civil. You're trying to make a contract that is mutually beneficial for everyone. Um, as you conduct commercial activities, everything from big picture strategic items such as a new program launch or your contract, or every day-to-day stuff, price increases, whatever it be transparent. Be as transparent as you can be. Now, I don't mean give your supplier every single piece of information that you have, but give them enough. Let them know that you're trusting them with this information. Be transparent about it. Um, and then make sure that you're having integrity, especially in your demand. So that, if you tell a supplier, next month I'm going to need 10,000 pieces, and they build 10,000. Don't try to say, oh, well, I actually only need 5,000 and stick them with 10,000. Take what you tell them. Make sure that the forecast you're giving is accurate. You don't want your supplier to prepare to make 5,000 and then you need 10,000, or you don't want them to prepare to make 10,000 and then you take 5,000. Try to be as specific with your forecast as you can, and really build that sense of partnership. Treat your supplier like you would want your customer to treat your organization. So that also leads into having some shared vision and objectives with your supplier. So a lot of this goes back to transparency. Share your goals with your suppliers. It seems crazy, but in my career, I've had the most luck getting cost savings with suppliers by going to my supplier and saying, "Hey, we're gonna work on this together. I need to be able to bring cost savings back to my organization," and let your supplier bring ideas. Your supplier will be able to come back to you and say, you want to make this part out of this grade of stainless steel, and it's going to cost you $10 to make this part. But if you're willing to go to this grade of stainless steel, maybe we can make it for 8. And you may only need 10% cost savings, and you can say, okay, let's make it for 8, and you can over deliver, or you can make it for 8 and actually buy it for 9, and then you're saving more money, your supplier's making money still. So you want to have these shared interests, and you want to know what the goals and objectives for your supplier is. Your supplier may be supplying you something. Let's say they're supplying you two different things. They're supplying you pens and pencils, and they may come to you and say, we want to grow our pen business. You can start trying to buy more pens from them. Or they say, hey, we're looking to get out of the pencil business. But you guys buy so many pencils, it's hard for us to exit. You may be able to then move your pencil business somewhere else and allow them to get out of that pencil business and convert more of their manufacturing facility to making pens. Um, And then you can even take that and introduce your supplier throughout your organization internally. You can introduce them to other people in your business network, and help them grow. So really, um, helping their business by helping, you help your business by helping their business. Personal relationships, I cannot I cannot emphasize this enough. People do business with people. It's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. It's true. It is very key, and I know right now during times of COVID, no one's traveling, but when you're working in supply chain, it is so important to get out there and visit your suppliers, to go and see their plant, meet their people, meet more than just the salesman that comes to visit you. Meet the plant manager, meet their purchasing manager, meet the guys that are making your product on the floor. Share meals with them. And once again, it's cliche, it's a stereotype of people doing business on a golf course. Go golfing with your supplier. Now, when you do these things, make sure that you're keeping up with your company's gratuity policy. It's okay to go and have if your company says, hey, you can take a meal from a supplier that costs $25, then don't expect your supplier to take you to Morton Steakhouse and buy you $100 steak and all the trappings that go with it. So build these relationships within the guides of your gratuity policy, and even you can pick up the meal as a supplier, um, or as the customer. Um, and then once you've built this relationship, you can really actually then build some equity in the relationship that you can leverage for favors. You can get your product moved up in the pecking order of priority of manufacturing. You can leverage it for better pricing. You can leverage it for better commercial terms. So, through having, sharing your vision and objectives through these personal relationships, then you can really start to look at, mutual benefit and need. So understanding what your supplier needs to be successful, sharing what you need to be successful, being transparent in this. It only helps everyone. You want your supplier to be able to make a fair market profit. I always tell people, don't Walmart your supplier. I worked for a company some time ago that they were a supplier to Walmart, and Walmart was notoriously bad about, I want you to lower your cost, and I want you to do every single thing I want to do. I want you to make all these investments to serve me while you're lowering their cost. And you got to realize that sometimes when you work for a large company, I think we have someone in the class that works for Boeing. um, you may have a significant amount of financial might over your supply base. And leverage that to your benefit, but don't leverage it to where you're putting your supplier out of business. Because if you put your supplier out of business, you do substantial harm to yourself. So, we want to have a commitment to our supply base from our management, but also from our suppliers management. So it's never a bad thing to have the upper levels of your procurement organization, or even your organization, meet with the upper levels of the suppliers organization. So while a buyer or a category manager may meet with a key account manager, it's not uncommon for the VP of supply chain and procurement to meet with their VP of sales or their CEO. And different conversations are had at different levels, and you'll find that oftentimes that higher level can bring a unique variant to the conversation that then can further bring resolution, or spur collaboration in your negotiations and your relationship. Um, Never be afraid to hear your suppliers' suggestions for change management. They're experts in what they make. They're experts in their processes. We're expert in buying what they sell. So never be afraid to listen to the ideas they have. Sharing information, having open lines of communication. The days of having adversarial relationships with your suppliers are long gone. Anyone that sits at the table angry with their supplier, fighting tooth and nail for everything they can, is bound to lose in the supply chain, I guess in the game of supply chain. The modern supply chain is one that is ethical, one that is collaborative, and this can really, it has to have information sharing, and it has to have an open line of communication. The customer supplier relationship is no different than any other human relationship. If you want to have the best relationship you can with your friend, you're going to share your expectations. You're going to share information. You're going to have an open line of communication. You're going to hope they're going to do the same. And then you want to make sure that you have performance matrix or metrics in hand with your supplier, and you want to know that they understand them. So for performance metrics, which are supplier performance goals, for them to be successful, they have to be fair. They have to be transparent. Um, and by that I mean it has to be transparent with how you measure them, how the measurements are analyzed and interpreted, and what you're going to do with those measurements. And then also, they have to be attainable. You cannot give your supplier a goal that they know they cannot meet, because then all of a sudden they feel that they're set up for failure. And then the trepidation that comes from that being set up for failure is only going to snowball into negative aspects of the relationship. And before you know it, you're into an adversarial supplier relationship. And you can look at um, these performance metrics of pre-transaction. So have you developed the supplier? Is there early supplier development? What's the total cost of acquisition or the total cost of ownership? Then there's going to be some during the transaction metrics, logistics, on-time delivery, and then there's some post-transaction. So are there quality issues down the road? Are there field issues? And on page 87 of the text, there's a great summary of all this. So, through this supplier relationship, developing your supplier relationships, managing your supplier relationships, you're also going to want to spur your suppliers to continually improve themselves, supporting them in their continuous improvement activities. Yes, it makes them a better supplier. It benefits them as an organization, but guess what? Those benefits do trickle down to you as the customer. So it never is a bad thing to invest in your supplier relationships, to invest in your suppliers, help them improve. Um, and really, through all this, the larger supply chains are going to have one supplier relationship manager for that relationship. So you may have 4 or 5 procurement people that are buying or conducting commercial activities with the supplier, but there's going to be that one owner. Um, Historically, I'd say the most common way that is figured that or the relationship owner is assumed is, let's say you have a supplier and they're selling you fasteners, they're selling you brass forgings, and they're selling you stainless steel stampings. Whichever one of those categories, let's say brass forgings, has the highest spend, they most likely will be the relationship manager. Um, and that's usually the most common way. So that wraps it up for this little miniature lecture. I'm gonna go ahead and post this, and then I'll record another to post.